bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello, I'm Callum Robertson and this is Entertainment. The British sculptor Anthony Gormley celebrates his 57th birthday this week. He's a prolific and popular modern sculptor. One of his most well-known pieces is the huge Angel of the North, an enormous statue which stands on a hill to the side of one of Britain's busiest roads in the north of England. A feature of Gormley's work is to make us look at the everyday world in a different way, and that's something that I experienced with a recent work of his, Event Horizon. Every day I cycle to work through the streets of London. My journey takes me over Waterloo Bridge, from where there are great views along the River Thames. Most days I don't see these views, as usually I have my head down, fighting the wind as I try and pedal up and over the bridge. But some days I do stop and think how lucky I am. For many people it's an ambition to come to London to see these sights that I can see every day. So sometimes I do stop and take a look at the riverside skyline to admire the view. A few weeks ago I noticed something a little different. I couldn't quite make it out, but it looked like there was a person standing on top of one of the buildings that looks over Waterloo Bridge. In the next few days I noticed more of these people standing on top of buildings on both the north and the south banks of the river. Of course, by this time I'd realised that they weren't real people, but they were statues. Identical statues of a naked human figure which seemed to be popping up all over the riverbank. In all there were 31, and it wasn't long before I discovered that they were all sculptures by Anthony Gormley, forming a piece of public art called Event Horizon. Anthony Gormley talked to the BBC Radio 4 arts programme Front Row. How did he describe Event Horizon, and what effect does he want it to have?
I think it's a sort of infection of the centre of town in order to get people to look at probably bits of London that they don't bother to look at. I mean, we're all so busy, aren't we? We're all going somewhere. We've all got an idea about a destination.
He describes it as a sort of infection, which is like a rash, a series of spots that appear on your skin. The purpose of this infection is to get people to look at bits of London they wouldn't normally see, to make us stop and take a pause from our busy lives. Listen again.
I think it's a sort of infection of the centre of town in order to get people to look at probably bits of London that they don't bother to look at. I mean, we're all so busy, aren't we? We're all going somewhere. We've all got an idea about a destination.
bbclearningenglish.com.
Gormley's Event Horizon makes us look up. But Gormley himself got a different perspective as he oversaw the positioning of the figures. He talks about the topography of London. The topography, which means the shape of the landscape. And he talks about this as he sees it from the ITV Tower, which is one of the buildings which has one of his statues on.
I've learned a lot about the topography of London putting these in. I mean, it was fantastic from the top of the ITV Tower, looking down and just seeing the texture of London and what an extraordinary, in a way, mixture of new and old, of the very, very domestic and intimate and tight with its little gardens, and then these huge new buildings.
From the top of the building, he was able to appreciate the mixture of styles and architecture in central London, the old and new, homes with small gardens next to huge new buildings. He goes on to explain more about Event Horizon, which he calls the piece, and what it means to London.
It's an extraordinary city that seems to express in its architectural styles the same kind of diversity that it has in its ethnic mix. And I guess it is a big question that the piece is asking: who is included and who is excluded from, in a way, this built environment? I'm treating London as if it were, in a way, a natural landscape.
London is a man-made environment that is diverse architecturally as well as ethnically. He says his piece asks a question, or makes us think about, who is and isn't included in this man-made environment?
I guess it is a big question that the piece is asking. Who is included and who is excluded from, in a way, this built environment? I'm treating London as if it were, in a way, a natural landscape with these exposed bodies that would normally be, as it were, protected by these buildings.
Well, I'm not entirely sure I understand exactly what he means, but that's the beauty of art. It can mean different things to different people. What I do know is that, like his Angel of the North, Event Horizon made me stop and look at the environment around me in a different way. So for that, thanks Mr. Gormley, and happy birthday.